Yeah, it's your boy Crypto Blood. Welcome to another episode of My Two Satoshis. It is December 10th, 2018. Shout out to my man Off the Blockchain for that song request, Shook Ones by Mobb Deep. Yeah, we're shook right now with this bear market for sure. And he said the war going on between Ver and Wright. Yeah, that ain't helping, right? That is not definitely helping. There have been some rumors about Bitcoin SV having double spending issues and stuff. It's just all just a mad whirlwind of craziness going on right now in the crypto space. But again, if you believe in the tech, you're going to stay here because the tech hasn't changed. That's the one thing that hasn't changed. Price may have changed, but tech has not. So just keep that in mind as you guys navigate this crypto space. I did a 2 cents video, my 2 cents video over the weekend, and I failed to mention this. I try to be, kind of bipartisan and not sway one way or the other. If you guys didn't check it out, make sure you do. It was about the California crisis going on with the home prices out there and homelessness and stuff. But I failed to mention this. This is a Democratic state. I'm telling you, man, I'm not saying I'm Republican. I'm definitely not a Democrat, but it's just insane what's going on with how the Democratic Party is running things in their states. It's just they just run stuff into the ground. They just completely run stuff into the ground. And granted, Republicans, I have some issues with some of the policies that they institute, but overall, if I had to pick, there was a gun to my head, I would have to go Republican. But of course, you guys know I am neither, and neither should you. You should not be loyal to one party. You should really do your due diligence and pick across the board if you can, if you even believe in this, what we call democracy. So yeah, I just wanted to point that out. I forgot to say that on the video the other day on that whole my 2 cents about California and the home sales and how they're going out of control and the homelessness. It's just a mess out there. So check it out if you didn't get a chance to. But today we're going to be talking about a topic that I actually covered, I think last week sometime, may have been a week and a half ago. But it was about this whole Ethereum secret meeting that happened at DevCon in Prague. And I didn't know this until now. But the only reason that was even exposed was because of a whistleblower. So we're going to take a look at this gentleman who actually was the whistleblower on this whole secret meeting that the Ethereum Foundation had in Prague. And interesting story out of Decrypt. We're going to look at that. I don't even have another article to read other than this one because it's pretty lengthy, but I want to read the whole thing for you guys and have a discussion about this. This is, again, one of the reasons and red flags I have with Ethereum. The reason I lost faith in it some time ago, actually, and why I think the price will continue to go lower going forward. Let's check out this market cap really quickly. We're sitting at $110 billion. Bitcoin's dominance is just shy of 55%. Mixed day right now, up slightly percentage-wise on Bitcoin, Ethereum, Stellar, and all the main ones. EOS has been really getting hit hard. I forgot to mention my thoughts about EOS and its latest price decline because it really had held up pretty well versus all of the other coins in this bloodbath up until late. And I think the reason is because people are literally forced to sell their best bags. That's what's happening now. So you're seeing even EOS really succumb to the sell-off in this bear market. Could it go lower? Absolutely. And I was telling someone the reason why everything goes down with Bitcoin is because this is still a very immature market. It's not, you don't have many other platforms other than Bitcoin actually creating a demand for itself where that would override whatever Bitcoin is going through, whatever bear market Bitcoin is going through. If you had true demand for any of these tokens, all of them, absolutely all of them, then the price would definitely diverge. It wouldn't go down with Bitcoin, when we were in a bear market. So will that change? Absolutely. I think it will. However, it will take some time and it will take some of these projects showing improving. They got to show, improve, and really get that adoption that adoption that everyone touted about in 2017 that was coming in 18 but never did, because it was all dependent on the price, not the actual project. That's kind of my initial 2 satoshis on that subject and topic. But again, you know, we're pretty flatline right now, not too far off the lows of Bitcoin. Honestly, we covered our position on that short from up here to down here. We covered it by trying to go long here, and the long actually got tapped out. So every time we've been on a losing streak with our longs, but definitely making the gains with our shorts. So we're currently out of the long as well, kind of neutral right now, waiting for the next signal in the trading room. If you guys are interested in joining, there is a link below for that. I'm not going to hit you with that spiel today, but great returns to over 240% now at this point with closing this trade out, and you guys should go ahead and join. You'll definitely enjoy the returns long term. You know, trading is not a one-day thing, a one-week thing. It's about a series of trades, and it's about a series of wins and losses. And cumulatively, your wins should outstrip your losses, and that's what has happened all this year with this algo. So that's how trades are done. It's not a overnight cowboy it on one trade and hope you get rich. No, you build wealth over time. So you just got to keep that in mind. So let's go ahead and take a look at that article, the one and only article for today. This is out of Decrypt Media. It says here, the whistleblowing wizard. With big changes to multi-billion-dollar blockchain Ethereum on the horizon, developers like Greg Colvin find themselves suddenly in the spotlight. So it says Greg Colvin lives in Mountain Valley in the Colorado Rockies, and outside of his window is a snow-filled vista, which he shared briefly via a recent video link. Colvin agreed to first unpack for Decrypt his role in the events which occurred after a recent core Ethereum developers meeting took place behind closed doors. It was an unprecedented move in the history of the famously transparent coding process. Behind the best known of the decentralized, Colvin is a veteran developer whose primary task with Ethereum has been his work on Ethereum's virtual machine, an integral part of Ethereum's inner workings, and one of the reasons it's unique among blockchains. His work for the platform has essentially been a part-time unpaid job for the past year, and he's been living off his personal savings while continuing to maintain the EVM code. Like much in the dev world, aside from code, the specifics are hazy, but closed-door core developers meetings were first said to have taken place in Prague at the 4th annual conference of Ethereum developers in earlier November. A subsequent conference call last week was by invitation only. Here we go. See, this is what I'm talking about, guys. Sources who participated in the closed meeting last week told Decrypt at the time that concerns about Twitter trolling were among the motivations. Meanwhile, Lane Retic, an Ethereum developer and one of the meeting's organizers, said the reality is that some of the core folks don't feel comfortable speaking totally candidly when the press is present. I do think that we need to respect their desire and create a safe space for these discussions. What is known is that the fact that the Prague meetings took place only became public when Colvin, apparently who wasn't even invited, published notes that were taken there on the developer's resource GitHub. Colvin also revealed he had refused to attend the follow-up closed-door event. The news prompted a Twitter outcry among Ethereum developers, complaints by devs on GitHub, and as a topper, a suggestion by Ethereum's co-founder and CEO Vitalik Buterin that the whole thing was simply an experiment, but one which Buterin said he objected to. Before too long, a return to normal service was announced by Hudson Jameson of the Ethereum Foundation, although it's unclear exactly what that means. It says here, so far as I know, the next all-core devs call will be live streamed and recorded just like always. He wrote, upon hearing the news, the experiment seems to have been a failure. Indeed, today's meeting was open to the public when it began. The article goes on to say here, rapid growth of startups based on radical decentralization into multi-billion-dollar enterprises is unique to the 21st century. Among these, Ethereum is famed for developing its technology in an open and transparent manner, while the Ethereum Foundation acts as an arbiter while also supporting ongoing research and development. It's the technology's independent developers acting as a group who manage the system. Like many an open source internet project, the till now accepted order of business is that the developers must publicly reach consensus about every step they take to maintain the technology, which now supports some 100 million smart contracts. Until November, though, those decisions were supposed to be agreed upon at open meetings, which are usually live streamed. The technology they discuss is difficult for outsiders to understand, and little is known about them as individuals. And yet Ethereum developers make decisions which can affect billions of dollars in holdings. Since they reached an agreement that significant changes to Ethereum's underlying code are urgent and necessary, the developer community as a whole has become subject to increasing scrutiny. The community is distributed across the globe and come from a variety of backgrounds. Some aren't paid at all for their work, either because they're dedicated to the cause or because they've become independently wealthy through trading in Ether. The final section of this article is titled Submarine Culture. Whatever their background, by last month, some portion of them had decided they were through with real-time public scrutiny. Colvin, for his part, dismissed the suggestion that the move to close off meeting access indicated the community was now splintering. He says here, what gets missed is how intensely engineers and scientists will argue technical issues. Because you need to get them right up front, you can't just go ahead and experiment on a $20 billion network to make sure it's going to work. Colvin, who holds a PhD in psychology, first came to the Ethereum community 2 years ago as a contractor for the foundation after 30 years of working for a variety of companies, large and small, from Oracle to barely staffed startups. At Ethereum, Colvin has been charged with improving the performance of the EVM, incrementally supplementing the current version, and developing ideas for successive implementations. But there was always another project on the table, and that was to replace EVM completely with a product called EWASM, based on the execution environment WebAssembly, which I have to note here just to take a break, which is what I believe EOS is using. So you see where they're going. They're hitting a roadblock. I told you guys that they would, and you know, they're trying to move and pivot to a new engine. Its chief advantage is that it would enable developers to code in multiple programming languages instead of having to rely solely on Solidity, which is the current language for the Ethereum code. In a familiar refrain, Colvin said he's not entirely sure why the decision to move to WebAssembly was made in June of 2018, but he is sure he doesn't agree with it. He argues that by the time the new technology is ready, there will simply be too many smart contracts already written for the current EVM. So he's continued to work quietly on an alternative course of just cleaning up what we had. I figured that was all in all an easier path than a complete replacement. He insists that there is no real conflict with the WebAssembly machine in what he is doing, and that it's a common practice for engineers, even those working for large corporations, to work on these so-called submarine projects under the radar and in their own time. Colvin's hope is that he receives a grant, ideally from the Ethereum Foundation, to continue his subterranean work. So there you have it, man. I mean, this again, to me, guys, just shows you he's going to save face, right? Because he's part of the crew. He's going to say there's no infighting, but there has to be some infighting for them to be taking such a huge pivot away from EVM and onto something that is similar. They're calling it the WebAssembly machine. I'm assuming the E stands for Ethereum. But for them to take that huge move is, man, I'm telling you, I agree with him that trying to pivot that far is just going to be disastrous. It's just not going to work. It's too many contracts out there already. You know, if you're trying to pivot that much, it's going to take like a year or so to even get to somewhere where you're like, okay, we're confident we can roll this out. But again, by then, other projects are going to be even light years ahead of where they are now on Ethereum. So again, this just supports my whole thesis that Ethereum is going to continue to head lower in price as the speculators start to bail on it and they see the writing on the wall. You guys let me know, what do you think? Do you think Ethereum is in trouble, or do you think there is some hope for this project to regain the glory? I don't know. I don't think so. But you guys, of course, let me know your thoughts on that. And that's pretty much it, though, for today. Shout out to my man Off the Blockchain again for the song request, Shook Ones, by my crew, Mob Deep. Rest in peace to my man Prodigy from that group. But yeah, that's it, guys. It's your boy Crypto Blood. And that's my 2 Satoshis for December 10th, 2018. Holla!